Hello, my loves. I am so excited to be joined today by a very special guest, Eugene Butcher, who is a movement artist, a yoga artist, but what he does is way more than technical movement in yoga. And today we are going to be diving into dance as a form of healing, and we'll be exploring it as a deeper way of finding yourself and connecting. And Eugene has come all the way from Bali. So I am so grateful that you're here today, my love.
My pleasure, Gabi. Thanks for having me here.
Yes, and you've been with me for 2 days now.
Mm-hmm.
I've got to experience it all of your beautiful gifts and all of your beautiful way of working with people. And something that you have created is it's a form of dance, but it's not really dance. And you call it heart dance meditation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so, when I came across your work, when I came across your Instagram profile, I was absolutely just in love with what you do, because I've been searching for a somatic way of helping people to heal through dance. And the moment I set that intention, you popped up on my Instagram account, and I was like, this is the guy. This is it. This is amazing. And I remember sending your videos to my friends and being like, this is what I want to do. This is what I want to explore. This is where I want to take my own work. And I was saying it to my partner, Ronnie, that I couldn't approach you. I didn't send you a message even, because
This is so funny.
I was like, you are a professional. You're like such a professional. For some reason, I was like putting you on a pedestal.
Wow.
And I had created this idea in my head that there's such a huge like.
If only you'd known the truth by then.
Yes. And so it's actually you started following me and you sent me a message, and I was like, is this the same person? What? What's
Absolutely,
going on?
absolutely. Because I know, because Heart Dance Meditation, the Instagram account is still new.
Yeah.
And I need to do more posting and promoting it. And so I noticed when people follow, and I saw your account and I clicked on see what, and I'm like, wow, okay, look at the work you're doing.
Yeah.
And so I was super excited and I wondered, did you just click and follow, or was there actual some interest? So I messaged you to find out for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just glad that I did. Glad that I popped up on your radar somehow.
Yeah, and you're here today, which is amazing. I'm so happy that you have reached out and sent me that first message. Yeah. So yes, my love, I would love for you to share your journey, first of all, of getting to a stage of, how did heart dance evolve, and what is heart dance, and how did you get here?
Sure. Okay. Well, it started about 10.5 years ago. And that person that you put up on a pedestal of some kind of professional, I was petrified of dance. I was super scared. And at that time, I'd been building up some momentum of overcoming fears in my life. And then this big one was there, kind of untackled. And, okay, this dance thing, I need to do something with that. I need to explore. And I've done some, I'd been doing tried some salsa, tried some bachata and that kind of thing. So, but I still thought there was more. I wanted to delve into it more. And I was at a festival, a beautiful festival in Dorset. It doesn't exist anymore, sadly. Colour Fest, it was called, and beautiful vibe there. And there was a practice called biodancer. And biodancer was started by an Argentinian therapist for the same reasons we've been talking about, that we as human beings need more connection, we need more eye contact, we need more physical contact. And this guy came up with this really beautiful kind of methodology and practice to just starts with people, very simple, and there's lots of simple steps of progressions. Everyone's just holding hands, and then they're walking around and skipping around the room. And then before you know it, it's like step by step, tiny progression, you end up doing this kind of dancing in pairs or dancing in threes, or dancing with people and just spontaneously and intuitively. And so I experienced this thing, and I was blown away by this kind of partner, the creativity of dancing intuitively and creatively in a kind of flow state. And I have this kind of thing with flow state movement practices and creative practices. And I'm like, wow, I need to, afterwards I was just looking, how do I do more of this? And biodanza at that time was starting to establish itself, but sadly it's kind of fizzled out a little bit over the past 10 years or so. So I couldn't really carry on going to biodanza. And then ecstatic dance back then was a space or an environment where sometimes the vibe was such that you could go in and the music was varied enough that sometimes there'd be some slow songs, because the music we use for heart dance meditation is, as you know now, really, really mellow. But then that changed with ecstatic dance as well, where I gave up because I don't like to use the F word, frustrated. I'd get frustrated at ecstatic dance because I just couldn't do the thing I was so longing to be able to try and explore more. And that's this partner, meditative, connected thing.
So I got to experience it yesterday and I got to experience it today just before this conversation. And I did not know what to expect. What I had no expectations of going into it. And as somebody with dance background,
sure, a strong one, right?
Right.
Yeah.
I had an idea. We always have an idea that dance is performance, and so I think that we have this idea that we have to perform something when it comes to dance in general. And so when it comes to partner work, getting into flow state with another human being, from the work that I do and my perspective, what you're doing is connecting. You're creating connection. And the connection, I always say, we cannot connect with another human being before we are connected with ourselves. And I feel like in a society, what happens is a lot of people are actually disconnected. And so a lot of, the core root of this is trauma, is the way we are brought up and the way trauma creates a disconnect from our inner self, from intimacy within ourselves. And so when it comes to dancing with someone, when I see it in the dance world, people are performing shapes. People are putting themselves into figures and shapes, and they're creating frame. They're creating frame. There is a structure, and they're in their head. A lot of the times, a lot of the leads that I dance with, they're in their head because they are thinking of the next thing to do, the next thing to do, the next thing to do, and they forget that actually, hey, this is all about connection. And so with heart dance, how did you what is the most important thing about this practice?
You hit the nail on the head already, that it is connection, and that's the priority. Is the quality of that connection, and taking time to find that connection above and beyond anything else, beyond any shapes or any movement or anything else. So just often say to people for the first time, look, we might stand here for 1, 2, or 3 songs and not move. So we've got time to be present with ourselves. Like you said, if we're not in touch with ourselves, how can we connect with somebody else? We can be present with ourselves and be present with our partner. And then just wait and listen, physically listen, emotionally listen for these subtle kind of signs of connection. And also we're playing this beautiful, emotional, inspiring music and allowing and listening for our instinct, expression, intuition to play with that or to let it take us somewhere together, not me by myself, but, can we feel that together? Can we explore it together?
Yeah. Yeah. How much does music enhance or impact the experience?
Massively. Yeah, I've got about 20 Spotify playlists of the most beautiful, emotional, inspiring, mesmerizing, hypnotic, trance-inducing songs that I can find.
Yeah.
It's surrendering to that. Yeah. And a lot of them seem to have cellos, beautiful cellos in it. And they've heard it said that cellos very close to the human voice, and that's why we feel a real resonance with it or for it.
Yeah. I feel like, having experienced heart dance meditation now, what I felt is there are moments when you are in total trance and you can't hear the music.
Interesting.
But there are moments when you are totally connected to the music and the music is actually guiding your emotion and the movement itself.
Yep.
And, looking at it from neuroscience perspective, we know how much classical music impacts the brain and it activates all parts of the brain, how much it flushes the brain with neurotransmitters, how good, how nourishing it is. Particular kinds of music. I use Dilgerida, which is a shamanic instrument. It's like a very long, you must know, it's a very long tube and it's...
Oh, did you do?
I use the music. I don't do it. I don't practice it. But I use it in my healing ceremonies as part of the breath work and shamanic work that we do with people.
Yeah.
And because it brings them into a state of trance,
cool.
whilst they're also obviously doing breathing and
Yeah.
other things. So I noticed how the music is changing my emotional state and my movement throughout the practice.
Yeah.
And so there were moments of dropping into memories that I had no idea of that I had,
Memories that you'd not thought about before?
Yes.
Oh, wow. Interesting.
Yes.
Beautiful.
Yeah. So a movement, like a small movement, because you're in a trance state in this dance meditation, your mind is going to be in a different brain wavelength, in a different consciousness state, which means that it's probably much easier to access, not probably, but it's easier to access the subconscious mind.
Yeah.
And that's where all of the whole storage of memories actually is. So accessing those memories through the little movements and touch and smell and all of the sensations, because, the practice is with eyes closed.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, most of the time.
So you are able to go into these visuals and memories, and that's what I would drop into. And I would drop into these moments where like something was holding me back, or something was where I was like ashamed, or I was afraid, or I was there was like an emotion attached to it, which allowed me to release that emotion. And I did not think that is possible with dance.
Beautiful.
Like I thought that, hey, we need to get it through transcendental meditation, we need to do hypnosis, we need to do, holotropic breathing, we need to do a breath work that changes the physiology of our body and so on.
Yeah.
I did not think that I could get into that state with just dance alone.
Wow.
And I do believe that it is also to do with the way you hold space.
Okay.
And how you, you know, I want to ask you, when did you realize that this was a healing modality?
Good question. To begin with, it just felt amazing for me. And obviously, I was also paying attention, checking in that it felt amazing for whoever I was lucky enough to be dancing with and sharing it with. And it's quite recent, actually, because it was more this thing of me following my bliss.
Yeah.
And like this Rumi quote, let the beauty you love be what you do.
Yeah.
So I try to let that guide my life. But with this thing, it was just so enjoyable. It was so beautiful. It was so unpredictable. And it felt creative because you just don't know what's going to happen in the next moment if you're completely open to possibilities and just following this flow state. And then when did it? There was little clues. Like, the odd person who's got watery eyes or tears here and there, and it just felt good. It always felt good.
Yeah.
And then more specifically, last year, two friends now, Nanda and Karen, Brazilians, and I met them at a festival. I did a little bit of acro yoga with them, and then one of them messaged me and said, "Oh, look, Eugene, we saw you do private lessons. Can we come together, me and Nanda, me and my friend?" And I said, "Sure, okay." The way that would work is that they're both women. It's okay, I'll kind of partner one of you, one watches, and then we'll switch and kind of repeat. And up until that point, my exploring of heart dance meditation, after I discovered that I couldn't really carry on exploring it in ecstatic dance, and biodance wasn't available. And then I started asking dancers that I was practicing acro yoga with to explore it, thinking, well, they're used to dancing, they're used to doing partner work, they're going to be comfortable. But then now I was trying this new thing of asking someone who's not a dancer. And so I was a little bit kind of conscious about that. And in fact, there was two of them.
Yeah.
Oh, maybe let me see how it goes. If it feels good, maybe I'll ask them to try this new thing. And we did the acro, and they were just about to leave. And I said, "Look, guys, there's one more thing. It's something new I've been working on. It's called heart dance meditation. Can I show it to you?" And they're, "Sure, what is it?" Okay, well, I'm going to play this beautiful music, and just close your eyes and have an experience and let me kind of lead it. And one of them was watching. With halfway through the first song, kind of 2 minutes in, I hear that the one who's watching is crying. And I'm like, wow. And then I noticed the one I'm doing the heart dance meditation with is crying. And then we switched, and the same thing happened again. And then they left, and I'm like, wow, what just happened? And they were messaging going, "Oh, we enjoyed this so much, but we enjoyed the acro, but that thing at the end, that heart dance stuff at the end," they called it the experience. And then the next time was at another festival, Soul Circus last year, where it was the first heart dance meditation workshop by itself. And a woman came up at the end and she said, "Look, I saw what you were doing and I couldn't join in because I was doing something or other. But I just wanted to say it's got so much potential for trauma release." And I'm like, "Wait, wow, can we keep in contact? Because I'd love to hear more about why you think that, how I might be able to explore that," and so on. And so we kept in touch. And then a couple of weeks later, someone else came for a one-to-one. It was a Chinese friend. And it's her first time doing acro, did that. And she was the first person where she was there by herself. And again, I thought, can I do that? Is it going to be all right? Let's see how the vibe is. And at the end, same thing. "Look, there's this other thing. It's called heart dance meditation. Can I show it to you?" She said, "Okay, sure, why not?" And it all seemed to go badly wrong. It seemed like it wasn't working. She just didn't seem to be responding the way people usually did. Like if I went to lift her arm, it was really heavy. And I'm like, wow, I need to change how I'm holding her because this arm's so heavy. Why is her arm so heavy? Why is it? And I just thought, this is a disaster. I'm thinking, okay, so her eyes are closed. When this first song ends, just don't get in the way because she's got to grab her bag and run for the door. And I'm thinking, okay, and she didn't. She stayed there with her eyes closed. And I thought, okay, maybe I can carry on because it can't get any worse. This can only possibly get better.
Yeah.
So carried on. Long story short, about the fifth song, she started to shake.
Yeah.
And shake, and the shaking got bigger and bigger and more intense. And I thought, okay, I think I know what's coming. And at that point, I thought, I'm super grateful for my 2 Brazilian friends who cried. And I'm super grateful for the woman who came up and said about the trauma release. And then, sure enough, and the floodgates opened, and she was just sobbing and wailing and physically lost control. I had to hold her up. If I thought her arms were heavy, that was nothing. It was like having to hold her there. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it took 2 songs for this all to subside. And then we sat down, and I just held space as best I could. I felt fine with that and didn't want to project anything or make any assumptions. And couldn't wait to hear what she was going to share if she chose to. And she said, look, I had the most amazingly beautiful experience. I kind of floated out of my body. I was watching myself. I felt at one with the universe, at peace with the world. And it was just so beautiful, I couldn't help but cry. And then she said a couple more interesting things. She said, look, I've actually done a lot of growth work where it's absolutely normal to have a big emotional release. But I've never had one. And I'm like, wow, that's interesting. The fact that she put herself in those environments obviously meant that she was comfortable with the idea of a big emotional release. But maybe in those other places she was possibly expecting it, and maybe that's why it didn't happen. Whereas here, she couldn't have been expecting it. I mean, I wasn't expecting it. So so that's those 3 things was where I kind of learned, wow, there's more to this than just a blissful, beautiful experience of connection. There's
That's beautiful, because I think the word that I want to use here is inhibition. We, with a lot of, modalities, practices where we kind of forcingly, especially like talk therapy or, just your typical kind of therapies.
Because you trained in psychology and and learned lots of modalities and things, I imagine.
So there's a lot of inhibition in these modalities. When we are simply trying to go back to a memory that was traumatic or painful or hurtful, and try to integrate it from a place of the conscious mind. It's really difficult to do. Because there are barriers. There's a reason why a lot of repressed emotions sit in the subconscious mind. Because we are protecting them in the first place. The mind had put protection mechanisms in place, coping mechanisms in place, put it in a little filing box, shut it off, closed it away, and put it away, and that sat there, unresolved. And there is an emotion attached, and that emotion lives in the body, and it lives in the fascia of that surrounds the muscles, right? And so it's beautiful because literally our body is carrying cellular information about memories of our past, and so what I see here with this experience, is that when this woman was with her eyes closed, she was able to go into a very safe space, because what it sound like to me, she was quite heavy because she felt safe to be held in the first place. She felt safe to give her body to you, to lean into it. Because that's what I always say, is like, let's lean into our emotions, let's lean into ourselves. And so the biggest thing that I see, especially with the feminine work that I do with women, feminine energy work that I do with women, is that it is the inability to lean back and feel safe to be held in intimacy, in sex, in relationships, in all of these different aspects. And so it sounds like, and especially for me in the experience that I had, I could feel that there was a representation of a structure because you're so far out, because you're in a trance state. You're not in a conscious state. You're in a subconscious state.
Sure.
You're in a totally different state of consciousness.
Yeah.
And so, I was saying to you when we were having a walk back home, I was saying to you, I did not feel like your arms were your arms. Like I didn't feel like your body was your body.
Yes.
It was like your energy was holding me, and your arms were like this structure that I could lean on, that I could like press and like receive a feedback and play with it and like allow the emotion to move through my body whilst I was in this container.
Yes.
So obviously my eyes were closed, but you keep your eyes kind of half wide
Yeah,
shut.
no. So I used to have to close them as well.
Right.
To drop in,
Yeah.
to lose myself, to go to that place, like you say, where I'm not conscious, and all that good stuff. And back then, if I opened my eyes for some reason, it would throw me out. But then gradually over time, I found that I could open them now and again and not lose it and not come out.
Okay.
And then it's been 10 years.
Yes.
Now I can have my eyes completely open, be in peripheral vision and be fine.
Yeah.
If I want to go deeper, I'll still close them to go deeper usually, but I'm just kind of still in a trance with my eyes open, because I'm kind of, it's interesting what you're saying about safety as well, because, and everyone I've done this with where it's worked has come after doing acro yoga with them. And of course, because I'm the guy on the ground, they're the person holding them up. So the most important thing I do in acro yoga is try and establish safety.
Yeah.
Again, nothing else comes close. That's my number one job, is for them to feel safe. And so if they feel safe there, it's only natural it's the same person, but that safety kind of carries across into the heart dance meditation, hopefully. But yeah, now I can have them open, be in a trance, because I feel responsible for the whole experience. And sometimes, like you say, I am holding them up, or I might literally they might be kind of bending backwards. So I need my eyes open. I can't just hope that there's nothing there or there's not a wall or whatever. So I can actually sometimes relax more in peripheral vision, just being able to see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so from the experiences that you've had with, especially women, do you feel like that element of safety, that element of being held, is quite common for women, that they experience it with this practice?
Yes, they experience it with the practice, but I think it's the thing that the kind of short circuits the system is like, and these releases that happen can't help feeling that it's connected with that.
Yeah.
My Chinese friend who had that big emotional release, she came back the second time and cried a lot. It wasn't as intense as the first one. And then after, she was telling me that she had memories of her dad who passed away, and it was a really kind of beautiful memory, all these memories coming up.
Yes.
So yeah, there's definitely something about being held, and it's not, I try to surrender to what I feel feels right for me and the person I'm practicing with. And sometimes it feels like what they need and what they're responding to. And sometimes it is holding, embracing, or sometimes it's hugging. Sometimes it's even almost restraining almost. It feels like, wow, this is such a strong hold I'm putting on them. But it feels like that's what they're responding to that.
Yeah. And that restraining part that you were speaking about made me think of shibari ropes.
Okay.
Because
I've not explored this, but
because there is a healing element
really?
to that as well.
Wow.
Because when you it brings you back into literally a space of a womb. Actually, and one of the memories that I had was I felt like I was in a womb.
You didn't mention this. This is crazy.
I didn't mention it.
You did. You did mention it yesterday. Yeah, it's beautiful.
Yes, a few times. But it was like nothing exists around me. I'm inside of a womb. It wasn't like a that there is an assimilation of a womb. I felt like I was back in the moment when I was in a womb.
Yeah.
And that only had happened when I was in a psychedelic ceremony.
Okay.
Right. So that's how deep it takes you.
If you're willing to let it,
yes,
and allow it.
Yes,
Yeah.
and I think that but why it got me thinking of shibari ropes, because like a womb is very warm, it's very tight, it's very, you're like this.
Okay.
And actually one of the holds, one of the self-soothing sort of somatic practices is things like, butterfly tapping, or like literally going into the fetus position to release any emotion that you have. So the fetus position being like kind of constrained, it can actually assimilate a feeling of safety.
Very cool.
So I think, the container, now that I've experienced the container that you're creating, it's assimilating all of these things, which allows the person to drop so deep into these unconscious memories attached to emotions that are repressed.
So interesting. I mean, it's amazing. I mean, because I haven't done the research to know that. I just have got more and more tuned in to how what the person's responding to, whether something I'm doing is taking them deeper into it or not.
Yeah.
Wow,
and I actually, that's why, in the introduction, I kind of froze introducing you, because in my head, what was coming through is that you're an intuitive healer, that I don't think that you even have, understood that about yourself.
Well, thank you.
It's like, and when I say healer, all I mean is about the concept of healing is, coming to wholeness.
Yes.
And I feel like you are holding that space for people without even
understanding it. Over the past 6 months, maybe, I've begun to realize it a little bit.
And you've been doing this for how long?
10 years. But it's really come on over the last couple of years.
Yeah.
Where now I can, if someone comes to an Acro Yoga coaching session, about 6 months ago I decided I won't coach anybody one-to-one without offering to do the heart dance meditation as well, because there's just so many really positive experiences that I want. How can I deprive someone the chance to possibly feel like this person did, or that person did, or this person did? So I feel I've got a responsibility to share it.
Yeah. Yeah. And have you experienced this yourself? Like being, I know that you don't see it as totally being held that space, but yeah. Yeah,
yes, I have, because it's like, for me, it's like people often say to me in Acro Yoga, for example, oh, don't you ever want to fly?
Yeah.
You're always the person on the ground. And I'm saying, look, to be honest, when I'm working in Acro Yoga and I'm connected with somebody and we're doing something beautiful, I feel it's both of us. I don't feel I'm the guy on the ground. I feel we've co-created this beautiful expression.
Yeah.
And it's the same with this. If someone has experienced this, what you've now described as beautiful woman experience, I'm still kind of experiencing what they're experiencing in some ways. I may not have the memories, obviously, as clearly as they're getting them, but I'm experiencing their response to it.
Process.
And the whole reason I've kept doing this for 10 years is because it just feels so beautiful for me to do it. I don't feel like I'm not just facilitating something. I'm having the most amazing time myself as well.
Yeah.
When it starts off, I'm a little bit more in my head about how are they comfortable? Are they safe? Are they, you know what I mean? And am I taking them in the right direction? Is it working? But my goal is, if I'm leading it, is to lead it by losing myself in it as well.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And what is it like to do this experience with a male? Is there any difference between doing it with a woman? Because what I'm straight away thinking of is there is still a play between the feminine and the masculine energy. And that container, for example, that that is that masculine container. But then that feminine creative flow, but there is like in that container, it's like it's an infinity of possibilities of where this can flow.
Yeah, there's definitely masculine feminine thing going on, and I realize that, and that's the nature of my acro yoga work. I'm the base, I'm the guy on the ground, and so when I'm partnering with someone, working with someone, then it's a woman. So there's that same masculine feminine thing there. And women are used to being lifted more, held more, trusting somebody, usually a guy, with that idea. We've grown up with that, right, and been conditioned with that, I guess, in a way. And I've only tried this with one guy that I can think of recently in Switzerland, a guy called Nino, who was I met in Cambodia, and he was so interested and enthusiastic, was fascinated by the whole heart dance thing, and he had so many questions. And he said, "Oh yeah, but what about this? And how do you get them to blah 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 blah?" And it was, and I said, "Look, maybe I can just show you. Maybe I can try. I've not done this, but maybe we can partner, and you can feel what it feels like." And he's like, "Okay." And so we tried that, and it was totally different. Me trying to ask a guy to soften, and I said this to you yesterday when I'm asking, I was doing heart dance meditation with a friend who coaches CEOs, and she came and she said, "Look, will this help me? Because my boyfriend has told me that I can't surrender to him. And he wanted to do this dance stuff, and he told me that I'm too controlling and I can't let go and I've lost my femininity. Will this help?" I'm like, "I don't know. Maybe we can." No pressure. We can try. But sure enough, it really helped her. She was fine. Everyone, it takes a bit of time to, what's this guy want me to do? This heart dance stuff. And it's just within 2 songs, she was gone. And the second time she came, we did this flow for 20 minutes. And she was like, we're both in a complete deep flow state. And I sent her a time-lapse video of it. And she's like, "Yes, I can show my boyfriend." So again, then go back to Nino, the guy, asking a guy to soften like that. And when I'm trying to guide a woman to do that, I embody it myself. I'll often soften and let them do the movements that their instincts, their intuition is suggesting for them to do, so that I don't want to feel like I'm controlling and restricting them, but in a way by softening and being much more receptive to their movements, they're kind of there. I guess I'm pacing or showing, demonstrating how they might do the same thing. And sure enough, it seems to happen. But with him, the guy, it took a lot more kind of suggestion of relaxing and letting go and softening
than would with a woman.
Yeah, big time. And even then, it didn't go anywhere near the same place. But it made sense. It helped him understand.
And so did you feel that he had surrendered to something, or his own body, or his emotions?
To an extent. Again, nothing near as much as a woman would in that space, and it took quite a bit of time. And he was very kind of in his head, and just a lot more strength and structure and kind of resistance, sort of, even though he was very willing, consciously to explore it.
Yeah, that's interesting, because I wouldn't say that it's a totally feminine energy, a practice that channels feminine energy. I would say that there is a balance in feminine and masculine energy. What this practice invokes. But what I feel like it probably can be even more like groundbreaking for men to be held, and I want to even say by other men in that way, to be led by other men without it needing to be sexual, because it isn't sexual.
No,
I've
absolutely,
experienced it.
absolutely. You know, I've done this with friends with female friends who are happily married, got a new baby, and I'm like, wow, is this? Can I do this? I'm comfortable to try it if they're comfortable to try it.
Yeah.
And you know, the friend I'm thinking of had an amazing experience. She was blown away. I was so happy that we could do that, despite the fact she's married. So yeah, it definitely doesn't need to be sexual. It would be interesting.
Yeah.
The guy.
Yes. Because I think that is breaking so many societal standards and conditioning around what males are expected to be like, how they're supposed to perform.
I think it would be easier if the guy has experienced or at least seen it in the more kind of acceptable format of masculine feminine. Do you know what I mean?
Explain it.
If they just saw a normal heart dance of a guy and a woman,
right,
and they tried it and experienced it to some extent as a guy and a woman, rather than going in straight in as a guy and a guy, I think that's quite a challenging thing for most guys. Yeah. I mean, I found it challenging to take myself and my friend Nino in you know, we got there and in the end, you know, we went in it. Yeah. It took some time.
Yes. And it totally makes sense because I think that even with women who are incredibly in their masculine energy, naturally at their core, their essence is feminine.
Yeah.
So they have a natural, you know, once the environment is there, they can drop into it easily.
Yeah.
You know,
that's
and it's like, oh, once the feminine energy knows it's safe, it will come out.
Yeah.
And I think with men is that it's a little bit opposite. They need, even just looking at the way their mental process works, you know, men tend to put everything into compartments. They are less emotional compared to women because women's emotional system is actually their guidance system. You know, they're emotional for a reason. That's their superpower.
Okay.
You know, that's how we navigate.
Yeah.
But men are more logical. You know, even the brain chemistry is different to the extent that men have more brain matter for logic and women have more brain matter for emotion. Okay. Right? So that means that we've evolved, we've just simply evolved in that way.
Yeah.
Right? And so it makes sense that men have the inclination to be more in their head. And it's harder for them to get out of their head compared to women.
Yeah.
But I think that, you know, with the work that I do with couples and women and men, I always say that, you know, we have to have a heart-mind balance. There has to be a balance of how much we navigate from our heart. And when I say from our heart, I just mean our emotions.
Sure.
Our intuition, our emotional state, our body.
Yeah.
And how much we can then enhance that with logic, you know. So it makes sense that it was more difficult, but like you say, it was only once.
Exactly. Yeah.
So there's loads of room for exploration.
Yeah, there's time. Yeah.
And I think that is incredibly exciting because I feel like there is, again, like as a healing modality, that can open up so much potential for healing. And what's coming through for me now is having dance partners in dance, you know, for performing. I have tried to share practices that come from my intimacy work.
And how's that gone down?
With these people. Yeah.
I'm curious.
And how has this gone down? It's been a mixed bag. Right? Because people, I think, you know, like in the dance scene, like I was saying before, they are more, you know, conditioned that this is a performance, we're performing.
Yes.
So they are conditioned, they've trained themselves to be a certain way and that there is a barrier and there's a boundary. And, you know, I've danced I dance a lot with strangers. I dance a lot. Usually the leads are men.
Yes, of course.
And the fascinating thing that I find is that I have a very open energy because I'm not afraid of intimacy. I'm not afraid of being myself.
Yes.
Intimately with myself. And therefore it shows that I have an open energy.
Yeah.
Now, when I tend to create eye contact, very deep eye contact, when I'm energetically able to open up to the person who is in front of me and he's a stranger and we're dancing, that usually tends to be taken the wrong way.
Exactly. Yeah. Can imagine.
It tends to be taken in a romantic way.
Of course.
You know, in a sexual way.
Yeah.
You know, and they will, after the dance, they will straight away go and ask me for my number and to go on a date and to pursue this.
Sure.
And I'm like, oh, I'm so sorry that you took this the wrong way. Because, you know, this it heavily depends on the environment that you're in, because I would have done, I do that in my community in Ibiza. Yeah. With like-minded souls who are used to that. And we have beautiful experiences. And there isn't that sexual concept there. Sure. But being in London, being in the dance, it's a dance community. People don't necessarily have like a spiritual inclination. They don't have an inclination for like energetic connection. They don't have, or maybe they don't have even like their understanding of intimacy is very different. You know. Yeah. And so I think it makes me feel really sad, because, you know, going back to that point where I was explaining, you know, trying to just simply put like very little intimacy practices to enhance the connection in the dance performance that is used for performance, it's taken in a very there is a big resistance there. You know, it doesn't come naturally to the men. Usually when I will dance with women, it's much easier. They take it on much easier. Yeah. And women with women, they tend to be naturally more sensual together. They actually feed off that energy. Sure. They love it.
And feel a lot safer, right?
Yeah, it's true.
Word again.
Yeah. They feel a lot safer. And maybe that, you know, my kind of, my belief is that maybe women feel more safer with women than they feel with men, is simply because of the societal kind of conditioning that's been put on about men. How dangerous men are.
Yeah, and if it's a stranger or someone they know, like I said with the acro, that's my number one thing, is that they feel safe. Yeah. And beyond safe.
Yeah. So how can you establish that safety with somebody who's incredibly who has an inclination for staying rigid and, you know, staying in tension, and how would you do that?
Give it as long as it takes. So same with acro yoga. If someone, there's a practice called hand to hand, which is you doing a handstand, and the only connection is a handstand. I'm lying on my back, the base is lying on the back. You're balancing someone in a handstand, and the perception is that, oh my God, that's crazy, that's difficult, I can't do that. This is the woman, the flying. But it's how many steps back do we need to go for you to feel that you're safe and you can do that. Let's go all the way back to there. And we'll keep going back until you feel, yes, okay, I'm safe here. I can do that. Yeah. And we'll establish that, boom, and we'll do it again. And no rush to progress. Let's sneak forward really, really carefully, rather than trying to take too big a step and then have to come back again.
Yes.
It's almost like reverse psychology. Yeah. Sometimes it's like, okay, we're going to come all the way back to here, and can we do this tiny step? Of course we can do this tiny step. We can go quicker than that, for God's sake. Yeah. So it kind of is similar with the heart dance meditation. It's like, okay, fine, we can just not move. We could just be here in stillness and do nothing. That's okay. We're still doing it. It's a success.
Yeah. Yeah. and what keeps coming back for me is the power of you being a man, creating that masculine structure, creating that safe space, and then letting the woman flow, right? Letting the woman flow. And yes, of course, you're flowing with her, you're in the flow state, but I'm just speaking from the point of view of
absolutely
of the woman.
Yes, that's exactly what it's like. And sometimes I feel like I'm really enjoying what I'm doing. Yeah. I'm in a flow state, but my main thing is facilitating exactly what you said, their flow.
Yes, which is basically them being in full feminine energy.
Okay.
Because that's what feminine energy is. Feminine energy is life force energy.
Right.
Right. So, if you are able to get yourself, like I did, into a total trance state when you are, like I kept saying, I'm like zonked into a different universe, into a different reality.
Right.
And, like what one of the ladies that experienced it as well, she had a out-of-body experience.
Yes.
It's a total out-of-body experience. Because at one point...
And that was your first one, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. In the first one, I went so deep that I couldn't feel the ground underneath my feet. And so it got to a point where actually I said to you, I need to get down because I couldn't feel my legs.
Yeah.
I wanted to take steps and like moving the body, but actually I wasn't inside of my body anymore.
Yeah.
Like it was such a crazy feeling. Like I said, I keep saying, like I cannot believe that I've been able to do that with no, mind-altering substance, without no breathing technique, without,
But at the same time, all those things have played a part, right? Because you were saying, because you're so used to embodying and expressing and letting yourself go to these places, that with the same thing, you know how to open up to it.
Yes. So of course it's different to everybody. And like you said, to establish that safety, I've trained myself to establish safety in my body first. And so I cannot explain to you why I felt safe enough with you to just flow into it so fast and just to get myself into that space.
Sure.
We did have a beautiful conversation before we, before we did the practice.
Yeah.
We connected and we got to know each other, So I think that obviously plays a huge part. And I tend to read the person's energy very well. And so if I don't feel safe with their energy, then I will get an intuition that, hey, you need to do something.
Sure.
Or this is not right, or something's not right. Okay. So, and I think, like I mentioned before, I think that you've become a facilitator for healing. Your energy has, and I'm only saying this from a place of it, from somebody who facilitates healing for other people. That what I feel in you, and it's something that has developed so naturally in your life. It wasn't something that that has come from like deep trauma, unless I'm incorrect.
Yeah, no, not. I mean, I'm sure I've had my own traumas and my own things, but no, not necessarily. Yeah. It's just following my bliss initially.
Yeah.
And then maybe helping or following other people's bliss in little sessions, little segments. How do I help this person go deeper?
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. It means a lot coming from you, especially.
Yeah. I do believe that this modality has so much potential. So much potential. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, for your interest in it, for enthusiasm, your curiosity, for trying it.
Yes.
Going deep.
Yes. Do you have any questions for me from the experience that you want to find out?
Yeah, because I'm curious. And It's interesting as well, like you said about that you felt very lifted in there. You needed to ground. After the first session yesterday, you were in a child pose, but it was kind of a really
I was like
heavy. I took a photo actually, and I just sent you the photo. Yeah, just like I've seen child poses before. Yeah. This is another level of child.
It's like,
you look so heavy and like you really seem to relish the ground, the earth.
Yeah, it felt like that. And it was solely because of the out of body experience. It took me like 10 minutes to get back into my body.
Really? Wow.
Yes. When I opened my eyes, I saw hexagons and shapes, and I was like, well, I'm tripping. I've literally taken a mushy right now. This is what it was like. I opened my eyes and I was in a different reality. And, you know, there were a lot of visions.
Not had this before. At least no one's told me that.
Yeah, there were a lot of visions. There were a lot of abstract visions, and you do feel like you're totally in a place of what's the word? It's not coming for me right now. Once in meditation, you reach the no space, no time experience.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which and what's interesting is that with meditation, it's very hard to stay in it. You know?
Yeah, that's true. I experienced it. Yeah, I was on a yoga meditation retreat in Cambodia. Beautiful, loved it. Amazing place, Harry Haralara. But I had to work at silencing the chatter in my mind and all that stuff, and then breathe in and stay here. Yes, this is it. Okay, I'm in that place. Great.
Yeah. Yes.
With this,
with this, I felt like hours went by. Like I don't know how. I was completely at loss of time and space.
Yeah.
You know, and it felt like I could just stay there.
That was a long session, especially for your first session yesterday. Yeah. And there was a point where I wasn't sure because I thought Ronnie had to go. Yeah. And I looked at Ronnie and said, okay, one more.
Yeah.
And I thought we were finishing. And then you there were some tears in the next one. But okay, we just need to stay as long as it stays there, as long as it takes.
Yeah. Yeah. Another big thing that I experienced was I've kind of held you from my back, from your back. I was on the back of you.
Okay, yeah.
And I began to just see this beautiful light that was coming from you. And that's the connection piece, you know.
Oh, wow. Okay.
You know, that's the connection piece beyond physical touch, physical connection, physical intimacy, eye gaze. You know, when you're so deep enwrapped in another person's energy field, and that obviously can only happen through practice. You know, my practices are incredibly deep. Yes. I've been training psychic development for many years.
Amazing.
So,
and you're also comfortable with that, and more comfortable with the fact it's not even your partner that you're having that experience with, because a few times people have said to me, look, this is too intimate for me. I can't do this. I can't go to that place. And I completely respect it.
Yeah. And
normally they've got a partner.
Yeah. Yes, it's interesting that I just don't see that as.
Of course, yeah. But I'm not going to try and persuade someone who does feel that way. It's not for me to do that. I just respect that. That's where they're at this point in time. That's how they feel about it. Yeah. But obviously, you've got a whole range of things that you're exploring and teaching and practicing.
Yeah. So everybody's experience is totally different, and you have to experience it for yourself.
Yeah.
So, you know, what would you say to a person who is kind of like, you listen to this conversation, and feels like a tiny niggle inside to give this a try, but they've never been exposed to this space, they've never danced, they've never done any partner practice.
Great. I say that because I was telling you yesterday that initially I would, when it didn't, bar dancer fizzled out, I couldn't go there. Ecstatic dance, I couldn't go there. Yeah. And then I was working with these dancers and teaching them yoga, so I thought, okay, they're used to it. So I thought they're professional dancers, they're trained dancers, they're not bothered about close proximity and intimacy and blah, blah. And sure, most of them were fine. But their training, I discovered and learned that it wasn't easy for them to genuinely let go and just go off script and genuinely not be okay with the fact they don't know what's going to happen next. And I actually found it easier with people who weren't trained in dance. It kind of flipped it. I'm like, actually, happy to work with dancers, but show me some people that have not done any.
Yeah.
Because it's just a blank canvas.
Yeah.
And so even better.
Yeah.
And I was scared of dance.
Yeah.
As well.
Yeah. And you've overcome it with going into it.
Yeah.
Turning it into like a totally different form of art.
Yeah.
Form of expression.
Yeah. So I would say, explore it patiently, safely, small steps.
Yeah.
Find some beautiful music.
Yes, and find Eugene somewhere in the world to do this.
or the friend, the partner, the half or whatever.
Yes. Well, thank you so much, my love.
Pleasure, Gabi. Thank you.
Thank you for everything, for yesterday, for the acro yoga and the heart dance meditation.
And we filmed it as well, right? So
yes, exactly. How can people find you if they want to do acro yoga or heart dance meditation with you?
Okay. Heart dance meditation on Instagram or social media. Acro yoga coach on Instagram for the acro yoga.
Okay.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you.